Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chess Wise. Today we are at the next topic, that is the practical Rook Endgames. We are at the 6th example now, and I have taken a very famous example, Capablanca White and vs Menchik Black. And this is a very famous game where some errors takes place. It's difficult to understand what went wrong. Of course, this must be a very long game. When the Rook Endgames come, it's like many positions, they look very similar to other positions, and the theory of Rook Endgame is really complex because of that. And one square changes and the theoretical position and their assessment changes. It was a black 2-player position. We have discussed the theory. We see that the rook is very well placed. There is a gap of 3 files between the pawn and the rook. Black could have easily drawn the game with the move rook b8, which we have discussed in our previous theory. After king e6, there is just kg6, when after f7, kg7, black gets drawn. That is one variation. I have discussed this theoretical position before. Today what I would like to show you, there is another way to get a draw. Let's discuss that first. Black can also play the move rook b1, and the rook wants to come from behind. After the move king f8, generally rook b8 is the safer way. We don't want to allow king f8. But after king f8, there is an additional point that has to be noted. The move kg6 helps to hold the game, because after f7, black has an adequate defense in the move king f6. Generally what happens, if the pawn has reached f7 and the rook is able to give check from the 6th rank, we can say that the game is over. But this only move helps black to hold the game. After rook b8, rook e8, the rook will have to move, and rook e6 check will be winning for white. And after the only move rook b8 check, rook e8, rook b6, white has kg8 when the pawn will promote. But after kf6, black has taken care of the check on e6, and after rook e8, there comes just rook b7 winning the f7 pawn. And here, after the move kg8, we see that just rook g1 check when the king has to go back to f8, and the rook can come back to b1 or a1, drawing the game. In this position, there were two ways to hold the game. Black just played rook a6 and thought of waiting on the 6th rank. But the rook is not ideally placed here on the 6th rank because of a tactical factor which we will see soon. Although Capablanca also made a mistake, he played rook d7, black went rook a8, this time stopping the king's entry to the f8 square. White went rook e7. During the heat of the game, it is like the moves are getting repeated now. But here Capablanca simply found the right way to win. Although one more mistake was made by him. King f8, check, kg6, and now comes f7. Very important point. Do note the difference of the rook placing. Previously the rook was on the b1 square. Here same would have happened if the rook was on the a1 square. And now the move king f6 doesn't help, because after kg8, the only drawing move rook g1 is unavailable, and ke7 allows f8 queen. So this position is losing for black now. Game continued with the move rook a8 check, rook e8, rook a7. After rook a6, there is just kg8, winning the pawn. And here white simply wins with the move rook e6 check. Now if king moves to f5, we can just take the rook to e1, move the king to g7 and play f8. And after the move king h7, there are in fact two ways of winning for white. One, simply playing the rook to e1. The point is very simple. After rook check, ke7, rook a7 check, kf6, rook a6, the rook interposes from e6, and black cannot manage a drawn king and pawn again. And the other move, controlling the pinning square with the move rook f6, also wins very easily, because here after rook a8 check, ke7, kg7 allows f8, and rook a7, ke6, rook a6, ke5, then the king goes and attacks the rook, and f8 is unstoppable, and white wins. But unfortunately, Capablanca again made a mistake here. He played the move ke8. This mistake is rather little difficult to explain. Earlier one was perhaps just repetition of moves which the stronger players usually tend to do. But here it's very difficult to understand because after rook a8 check, ke7, kg7 and it is simply drawn. There is nothing that white can do to control the f8 square. Perhaps he must have thought that adi1, rook a7, ke8 when rook f7 is not possible due to rook g1 check followed by rook f1 and winning the f7 rook, but black just has rook a8, ke7, rook a7 drawing the game very easily. After ke8, black went rook a8 check, ke7 and black counter blundered with the move rook a7 check and giving white the last chance to get his king to f6. We reach the previous position here and there is nothing black resigned in the game because after rook a8 there is just rook e8 and after the rook checks king will simply go towards the rook and the pawn will win by force and white wins. So even at the highest level mistakes are very common because the rook endgames are very complicated. I hope you are finding these lessons useful. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.